Hello and thank you for joining me for this video presentation. Today's topic is using Amazon SQS with IBM Transformation Extender 10.03. I hope you find the content both interesting and informative. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at PaulBrettIBM and check out my YouTube channel for further content along the same themes. So let's start on the Amazon side. Here you will see that I have the Amazon Web Services Management Console up, and I'm going to go into the security section. That's the IAM. Here in the IAM dashboard you will see that I have one group. The group is called SQS Group. If I go into the group, you will see that there has been one policy applied to the group, and that's the Amazon SQS Full Access. Heading over to the roles, I have one user. The user is called Makata. And if I go to the Security Credentials tab, here is where I can create an access key and a security key for use in my map later to put to the queues. Speaking of queues, I have another window here open at the Amazon SQS page, and if I click on the queues shortcut, you will see that I have one queue created called Test Q1, and there are currently no messages available. Okay, next step is to put a message on the queue. Switching to the Design Studio, you will see that I have one project. The project name is Amazon SQS, and within that project I have one map source file and one type tree. The type tree is very simple and just contains a simple text blob that I'm going to use. Obviously you could use type tree with structure, but I'm just going to be putting simple messages, so a text blob will do. Okay, let's open the map and have a quick look. Within the map source file I have two executable maps, one called 1_put_msg and the other one called 2_get_msg. It should be fairly obvious what those two maps do. Map number 1, 3 input cards. I've got input card number 1 is called message, and it uses the echo adapter to send in the string hello world ! Input card 2 is called access key and is the access key that I got from the Amazon Web Services page. And finally, input card 3 is called security key, and this is where I paste in my security key. I'll be changing the security key later because this is secret information that really shouldn't be issued to anybody else. This key can only be copied from the Web Services control panel at creation time, so it's very important when you create the new key to copy it and make a note of it somewhere, because you can't retrieve it afterwards. Okay, on the output side I have a simple output card which is using a put rule to send the information to the SQS adapter. The access key is sent in as part of the adapt command line with -AK. The security key is sent in with -SK. I've got a region specified here, and that's the Amazon region that was given to me when I signed up for my Amazon account. And finally I've got the name of my queue, which is the queue I created and showed you in the dashboard earlier. I've got the adapter tracing turned on to verbose mode. And what I'm going to send in is the message, and then appending to that a random number. And this whole thing will fail if for some reason this is unable to put a message onto the queue. So let's run this map. The map has completed successfully, and if I switch back to my queue list and refresh this display, we should see that the messages available changes from 0 to 1. Which it has done. Fantastic. Okay, let's head back to the map designer and run the second of the two maps. This is my map to retrieve the message. In my input card I have pretty much the same connection parameters. Let's just make this a bit bigger here. I've got the access key, I've got the security key, I've got the region, the queue. I've got a couple of extras in here that weren't in the put, and that's LSN and QTY. Because I'm running this through the equivalent of the command server, this is actually the design studio, but it's the equivalent of the command server. It's not listening for a message to arrive, so we have to specify a listen threshold and a quantity amount before the map will consider itself complete. So I'll say listen for a maximum of 1 second and retrieve a maximum of 1 message. And finally, I've got the -rm, which is the additional parameter that is introduced in ITX 10.03, which actually allows you to delete the message after the browse operation is complete. Okay, so let's click on cancel there and run this map. I run the map completes successfully. And in theory, if I go back to the queue, we should see that the message count currently 1. If I refresh, that should change back down to 0. So if I refresh that now, there we go, message has been retrieved. And if I look in the file explorer, we will see that the message has been backed up into a .back file, which we can open now in, let's open with Ultra Edit. And we can see the string hello world ! And then in brackets the random number that I put in at the end to indicate different messages arriving. Okay, if I was to want to implement this map, this get map in a launcher, this map could remain exactly as is, and I would just be able to drop the map onto the canvas. I would override the command line to remove this LSM1 QTY1 because they're not needed, and I would turn the source event to on and have the launcher trigger from messages arriving from when they arrive on the Amazon SQS queue. Some extra content for you here. Let's try and export this project and see if we can import it into ITX 10.03 Design Server and run the map from there. So let's close this for a moment and close the map and right click, export, export. We're going to export it to an archive file. We're going to export pretty much the whole project. The name has been set for me there. I'm going to click finish and overwrite the file, yes. Okay, so the entire project has been exported as a .zip. If we now fire up Chrome and join our running design server session, log in with a standard admin username password. As you can see, this is a fresh installation, and the only project that exists is the standard one that's given with the product process orders. So let's import this project that I've created. I'm going to browse up to the directory where the zip file is and click the import button. Okay, the project has been imported. Let's have a quick look. Here are our maps 1 and 2. So let's start with 1 and put a message on the queue. Just as a quick reminder, back at the queue we can see we are currently sitting at 0 messages available. Back in the design server, our map is sitting pretty exactly as it was designed in the design studio. So what I'm going to do now is not make any changes and just click build and run. Okay, that's reported that the run is successful. Let's switch over to the queue view and check that the messages available has actually incremented by 1, which it has. 1 message has arrived on Amazon's servers. Okay, back to the design server and switch to map number 2, get message. Before I run this map, I'm just going to quickly show you a cool feature. If we right click the input card and choose settings, and we have a look at the connection properties, you will note that the access key and the security key have both been masked. So you can't actually have a security breach here by having somebody look up your access credentials for your SQS instance. So let's come out of that for the moment and we click build and we click run. We'll temporarily switch over to the queue view, make sure that this number 1 here decreases back to 0. It might take a second before the refresh works. There we go. Back to 0 we are. And back in the design server, if we right click the output card and choose View Data, there we see the Hello World exclamation mark string with the random number within brackets as the output for the map. I want to thank you all again for taking the time to view my video presentation today. I trust you found the content both interesting and informative. Please feel free to follow me on Twitter at PaulBrettIBM. Consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, where I will continue to post instructional videos for using IBM Transformation Extender. Have a nice day.